Hey everyone, it's Dan here from Digital Pinnacle, and today I'm going to be looking back over some of my favourite film and game series and ranking them to decide ultimately which of the titles is my all-time favourite. For our first episode in this new mini-series, I thought there was no better place to start than arguably my favourite movie and book series of all time, Harry Potter. Please be warned that this video is likely to contain some heavy spoilers for the entire film series, so if you haven't watched them yet, click off this video now. If you are still watching, let's get started. Here is Digital Pinnacle's definitive ranking of the Harry Potter movies. Kicking off this list at number 8, it is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Picking one of these films to be in last place was incredibly difficult. In the end, I decided to go for the first part of the final chapter because, like many other Part 1 films, it constantly feels like it is just a prequel to the main event. And while I am glad that the final book was split, because we got to see such an incredibly detailed book faithfully adapted without too much taken away from the original material, it also made Part 1 feel like a bit of an anticlimax. Sure, there were some good scenes, including the marvel of cinematography, which was the 7 Harrys, and of course, the sad departure of our favourite house elf had many fans in tears. But all in all, the fact that so much more was left to come made this film my personal least favourite of the entire series. Next on my list, at number 7, it is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This film, while still being an all-round great addition to the series, was also a bit of a damp squib. There were some fantastic scenes and moments, such as seeing Hogsmeade for the first time, the creepy and disgusting Dementors, and the twist of Scabbers actually being Peter Pettigrew this whole time. But the main problem for me was the way this brilliant book was adapted. It left the audience feeling like nothing in the Harry Potter world had actually changed in the end. This is possibly more of an issue with the source material, but I felt that in the book, the way the story came to an end was better explained. At the end of the day, Harry had saved an innocent man from a fate worse than death, but I didn't feel the film had the entire audience feeling like it had been worth a full 2 hours spent in the theatre. Pair this with a large amount of missing features that felt important in the book, such as Crookshank's influence on the plot, as well a cheesy scene at the end as Harry flies away on his brand new firebolt, and I just have to place this at number 7 on my list. Landing at number 6 is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. A great film with some fantastic scenes, the first to be directed by David Yates, who continued to follow up and direct the next 3 films. The Order of the Phoenix is often regarded as the first of the darker Harry Potter films. Voldemort has now returned to his full power, and seeing the world we have all come to grow and love change before our very eyes was exciting indeed. Some of the best parts included seeing a fully crafted Ministry of Magic and watching Dumbledore's army spend their time practicing real magic behind the teachers' backs. Speaking of that, I don't think anybody could fault Imelda Staunton's portrayal of arguably the most hated character in the entire series, Dolores Umbridge. The only reason I decided to place this one at number 6 was the few major details in the books that were removed from this film, such as Harry's visit to St. Mungo's Hospital where he meets Neville's parents, as well as that, the way in which Dumbledore's army was caught got changed to make it have more impact on the viewer, and finally the lack of Quidditch, especially when it was so important in this story. All of these big changes to a good plot made the film feel less faithful to the source material than many of the other films in the series. Getting towards the halfway mark, at number 5 it is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. At this point, I am going to stop justifying reasons why I didn't enjoy a particular film so much, and talk more about why they were great. Half-Blood Prince is arguably the darkest of all the films. The entire tone of the film, and the way it had been shot, constantly leaves the audience with a sense of foreboding. One of the most recognisable scenes for doing this is when Harry, Ron and Hermione visit Diagon Alley, which apart from Weasley's Wizarding Wheezers, is completely run down and abandoned. A massive transition from when we first saw the fabled street in the first film. On top of this, Half-Blood Prince contains one of the most emotional scenes in the entire series, with the death of Dumbledore leaving all of Hogwarts completely distraught. It was a shame that the battle between the students and a group of Death Eaters got completely removed from the story, but it didn't have too much impact on the plot. Overall, this is a great film, with the audience learning a lot more about the history of Voldemort and how he survived death more than once. At number 4, it is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. The second movie in the franchise is for me what really drew me into the series and secured me as a lifetime fan. While the first movie was fantastic, it was undoubtedly made for children to watch, And while that isn't a negative point, when Chamber of Secrets was released, which showed Harry being accused of attempted murder and him battling Slytherin's monster, this proved that the producers were not afraid of these films becoming less child-friendly as they went on. Of course, seeing the Basilisk and Aragog the Acromantula come to life on the big screen could not go unmentioned. As a child who was afraid of spiders, these scenes genuinely scared me. I think this was good, because even though this was a child-friendly film overall, the way it didn't pull any punches made the children viewing it, including myself, feel more grown up, and definitely made me come back for more when Prisoner of Azkaban was released over a year later. Taking the bronze medal at number 3, it is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This film is often criticised by the critics, but honestly, it always has and always will be one of my favourite films in the Harry Potter series. Thanks to the great plot, this film is the first in the series that really turns everything on its head. Unlike the previous 3 films, Goblet of Fire focused much more on the action. Harry spent less time in the classroom and more time battling dragons. For long-time fans of the series, this was a great mix-up, making the series less predictable and more gripping. We were introduced to a bunch of new characters, including Fleur Delacour and Victor Krum. This was also the film where we saw Voldemort return to his full power, and as a side effect of this, we see a character murdered on screen for the first time. This was great, because it was a real turning point for these films, as they went from being particularly child-friendly to films that covered more darker subjects such as death, racism and torture. At number 2, my second favourite Harry Potter film is the one where it all began, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This film is, in my opinion, the most faithful adaptation of all of the books in the series. Sure, the reason for this is because the first book is the shortest of all, but Christopher Columbus did a fantastic job of taking an incredibly popular children's story and putting it on the silver screen. For all the fans of the books before the films were released, it was fantastic to see all of your characters visually, rather than having to imagine them. Seeing Quidditch brought to life could be every child's dream, and the other CG effects, such as Fluffy the three-headed dog and the giant moving chess pieces, were great as well. Looking back on this film now, it is full of some of the most nostalgic moments of film from my childhood. Right from Hagrid's first announcement of "You're a wizard, Harry," to the Voldemort Professor Quirrell reveal. As a kid growing up loving all kinds of films, these really are some of the finest and most memorable moments. Finally, at the number 1 spot, the only one I haven't mentioned so far, and the one where Voldemort's story ends for good, it is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. For me, there isn't really much that can be negatively said about this faithful ending that stayed true to the fantastic series of films and books. Of course, there were some changes from the source material, but we had become used to it by this point, and a lot of changes were actually knock-on effects due to certain characters never being introduced in the previous films. But more to the point, what an ending this film was. The Battle of Hogwarts has got to be one of my favourite moments in film ever. With hundreds of extras on screen at any one time, as the students of Hogwarts battle Voldemort's Death Eaters for the last time. These films got darker and darker as they went on, and at this point, we knew that no one was safe. For anybody who had not read the book, not knowing who would live and who would die must have been very tense. Seeing some of our favourite characters, including the likes of Professor Snape, Remus Lupin and Fred Weasley, all fall at the hands of the Death Eaters was incredibly emotional. Most importantly, the final battle between Harry and Voldemort was perfectly tense, and to see Voldemort finally fall, victim of his own killing curse that he had used so many times, was the justice every fan of this series wanted to see. So there we have it. That was Digital Pinnacle's ordered list of all of our favourite Harry Potter films. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you stayed until the end, well done and thank you again. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more high quality videos from Digital Pinnacle.